The morning was quiet, almost too quiet for a household with a newborn. Sunlight filtered gently through the curtains, painting warm stripes across the nursery floor where toys lay scattered in a casual chaos that spoke of sleepless nights and constant care. The baby lay in her crib, swaddled in a soft pastel blanket, eyes wide and searching, fingers twitching at the edges of the sheet. There was a sense of anticipation in the air, subtle but impossible to ignore, as though the walls themselves were holding their breath. Her parents sat nearby, exchanging anxious glances, neither daring to speak too loudly, afraid to break the fragile spell of the morning. For months, they had watched her grow, heard her coos, seen her expressions, but today felt different. Today, something extraordinary seemed poised to happen. The father leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, his gaze fixed on the baby. He could feel the familiar tightness in his chest, the mingling of awe, anxiety, and hope that came with every milestone. The mother sat beside him, fingers intertwined with his, knuckles white, lips pressed together to hold back the swirl of emotion threatening to spill over. They had spent countless nights wondering what her first word would be, whether it would come spontaneously, softly, or in a moment that would leave them breathless. Every sound she made, every gurgle, every murmur, had been a potential herald of that first moment. And yet they were unprepared for the intensity of what they sensed in the air now. The baby shifted in her crib, lifting her tiny head slightly, eyes locking on her mother as if recognizing an unspoken cue. Her mouth opened, forming shapes too small to yet constitute words, yet filled with intent. The parents held their collective breath, heartbeats synchronized, waiting for the breakthrough that could happen at any second. It was a delicate, balanced awareness that this could be just another sound, another innocent murmur, and yet the undeniable feeling that something monumental was about to unfold. The room seemed to stretch, time slowing, as the smallest human presence demanded the entire focus of their world. Soft toys and mobiles above. The crib swayed gently with the faint draft from the open window, casting shifting shadows across the baby's face. Her eyes tracked each movement with the sharp precision of someone discovering the world in real time, processing everything simultaneously: the sounds, the shapes, the warmth of her parents' presence. She had always been observant, unusually attentive for her age, and today her attention seemed concentrated, focused on a single invisible thread connecting her to the possibility of language, of communication beyond coos and cries. The mother shifted, leaning closer, whispering a soft encouragement, her voice barely audible. "It's okay, sweetheart. Take your time." The father's eyes never left the baby, tension etched across his face. They had prepared for milestones, yes, but nothing could have truly prepared them for the raw, unfiltered vulnerability of witnessing the exact instant when their child's mind would reach beyond infancy, when her first word would emerge. Every sound she had made before now had been a practice, a prelude, but in the quiet anticipation of the morning, the air vibrated with the possibility of something extraordinary. Then it began. A small sound, tentative, uncertain, almost swallowed by the quiet. It was so faint the parents weren't sure if they had heard it at first, but their bodies reacted before their minds could process. The baby's lips moved in a way that was deliberate, a shape forming, and the parents leaned closer, eyes wide, hearts racing. Time seemed to halt, the room suspended in a delicate, fragile bubble. Every instinct screamed at them to celebrate, to gasp, to exclaim, but they remained still, knowing that this moment required patience, observation, and reverence. And in that stillness, in the hushed tension of the nursery, the first word began to take shape, small but powerful, carrying with it the weight of wonder, astonishment, and the unexpected. It was a sound that would soon break through the ordinary, a spark that promised to shift everything the family thought they knew about connection, expression, and the boundless capacity of a tiny human being to astonish the world around her. The tentative sound lingered in the air, vibrating with possibility, and yet the parents remained silent, caught in a liminal space between hope and fear. The father's chest tightened as he wondered if this was truly the moment, if the baby would follow through with something unmistakable, or if it would vanish into another innocent murmur, leaving them suspended in anticipation. He felt the weight of countless questions pressing down. Was this the first word that would mark the beginning of conscious communication? The first bridge between infant wonder and human expression? Was he overthinking, or did he genuinely sense that something remarkable was unfolding? The mother's gaze was fixed, unwavering, yet her mind raced. Memories of her own childhood surfaced. Fragments of first words, long forgotten yet hauntingly familiar. The thrill and terror of expressing oneself for the first time. She thought of the months she had spent nurturing this tiny human being, of sleepless nights filled with worry, of every lullaby, every whispered "I love you" that had slowly woven the threads of connection and language. Could a single word, spoken now, contain the weight of all these experiences? Could it carry meaning beyond its sound, beyond the letters themselves, into the very fabric of their family's shared reality? The baby's tiny hands fluttered, gripping the edges of her blanket as if seeking anchor points in the sudden gravity of the moment. Her eyes darted between her parents, scanning for cues, recognition, reassurance. Every coo and gesture was layered with complexity, curiosity, anticipation, and an instinctive understanding that the adults were watching, waiting, and that this was no ordinary morning. The room itself seemed to pulse with energy, the soft light falling on the crib, the gentle sway of mobiles, the warmth of their presence all conspiring to amplify the intensity of the first word yet unspoken. Doubt began to creep in alongside hope. The father's mind teetered on the edge of anxiety. What if the word wasn't what they expected? What if it was something mundane, insignificant, or incomprehensible, and the moment lost its magic? The mother, too, felt an undercurrent of unease. She feared the fleeting nature of milestones, the way moments could slip through fingers, leaving only memory and longing behind. She worried that anticipation itself might overshadow the reality, that they were holding their breath for something that might never manifest fully. Yet, alongside this fear, an unshakable belief persisted. This was the moment, the fragile intersection of timing, preparation, an instinct that could not be manufactured but only witnessed. Minutes stretched, each one heavy with tension. The baby's lips formed shapes that were precise yet mysterious. Tiny articulations that hinted at words, but meaning remained elusive. The parents leaned forward slightly, almost imperceptibly, careful not to startle, to maintain the delicate balance. They were both observers and participants in a ritual of discovery, a silent communion with this small, unformed voice that was on the cusp of articulation. Each breath, each blink, each fluttering hand felt magnified, as if the universe had concentrated its energy into this single, fragile moment. The mother whispered softly under her breath, more to steady herself than to communicate. "You can do it, love. Just say it." The father's throat tightened, and he pressed his hand lightly over hers, a silent gesture of shared hope and anxiety. They had spent months imagining this day, rehearsing in their minds what it might feel like, but nothing had prepared them for the raw, electric tension that now thrummed through the nursery. The baby's awareness, the subtle intention in her gestures, made it clear that she understood the importance of this moment, that she sensed the anticipation surrounding her, and that she was, in her own tiny way, preparing to meet it head-on. Then, just as the tension reached its peak, the baby's lips quivered. Her hands twitched in the air, reaching forward, then drawing back, a subtle dance of exploration and hesitation. The parents held their collective breath, hearts hammering, knowing that the breakthrough could happen in the next instant or slip away entirely. It was a delicate interplay of timing, courage, and instinct, and every fiber of their being was attuned to the possibility. The room felt suspended, every sound muted except for the baby's small, focused movements. Every light refracted through the prism of anticipation. And then a soft, deliberate sound emerged, a syllable, fragile yet intentional, cutting through the silence of the morning. It was not a shout or a cry, not a laugh or a gurgle, but something more, a word, tentative, nascent, carrying with it the weight of potential, the promise of connection, and the first tangible link between thought and expression. The parents froze, the air thick with emotion, as realization dawned. Their baby had taken the first step into a world of language, and the moment, delicate as it was, would leave its mark forever on their hearts. The soft syllable hung in the air, fragile yet undeniable, vibrating through the room with a gravity that seemed impossible for such a tiny being to command. The parents leaned in instinctively, faces straining to catch every nuance of sound, every flicker of movement, every minuscule shift that could hint at the meaning behind it. The baby's eyes were wide, focused with astonishing intensity, reflecting both curiosity and an almost instinctual understanding of the moment's significance. She was no longer simply reacting to the world. She was initiating a dialogue, taking the first step into a realm that until now had been completely abstract, unseen and unspoken. The father's chest tightened, a mixture of awe and disbelief rendering him almost immobile. He wanted to speak, to react, to laugh, to cry all at once, but he remained rooted in place, mesmerized by the unfolding miracle. The mother's hand rested lightly on the crib rail, her fingertips trembling as tears streamed down her cheeks. The word, so small, so deceptively simple, carried with it an emotional resonance that surpassed any syllable they had ever heard. It was a fragile, delicate bridge between her tiny, infant world and the vast expanse of shared human understanding that awaited her. The syllable emerged again, repeated, more confident this time, forming a pattern that suggested meaning, intent, comprehension. The parents exchanged a glance, eyes locking in a silent, shared realization. This was it. This was the first word, the one that would be remembered for a lifetime, the spark that would ignite the endless series of conversations, the first tangible proof of their child's emerging voice in the world. The room seemed to pulse with energy, the morning light warming the space as if the universe itself acknowledged the significance of what had just occurred. The baby's tiny hands reached out instinctively, fingers curling slightly, as though emphasizing the importance of the sound she had just produced. She repeated the word once more, clarity in her tone growing, her confidence blossoming in a way that left no doubt in the minds of her parents. The father's throat constricted, and a tear slipped down his cheek, catching the morning light like a tiny prism. The mother pressed a hand to her lips, fighting to hold back the sobs of wonder and relief that threatened to escape. They had waited, dreamed, and worried for months. But the magnitude of this moment far exceeded any expectation, and then it hit them, the word itself. Simple, clear, filled with intention, and profoundly personal. It was not a random utterance, not a meaningless sound born of chance or mimicry. It was a deliberate act of communication, a conscious choice to engage with the world, to reach out with meaning, to stake a claim in the realm of understanding. Their hearts swelled with a mixture of pride, awe, and humility, recognizing that this tiny human had just opened the door to a lifetime of dialogue, connection, and shared experience. The parents could hardly speak, barely breathing as the baby repeated the word again, softer this time, almost shyly, yet unmistakably present. It was a revelation. Language was no longer a distant horizon, was tangible, immediate, and alive within their child. They felt the gravity of the moment settle around them, a quiet, intense energy that was both overwhelming and tender. This was more than a milestone. It was a profound emotional event, a reminder of the fragile brilliance of life, the astonishing potential of human connection, and the extraordinary capacity of a tiny soul to astonish those who loved her. The mother whispered the word softly, as if speaking it herself could anchor it in reality. "Yes, that's it," she breathed, voice trembling. The father's eyes glistened with tears, and he reached for her hand, gripping it tightly as if to tether himself to the moment, to ensure he would never forget the shock, the beauty, and the awe that had entered their lives. The baby, sensing their shared emotion, cooed and moved her tiny arms, an almost celebratory gesture, repeating the word with growing confidence and delight. Every fiber of the parents' beings resonated with the revelation. They understood, fully and irrevocably, that this was the turning point, the moment when their child stepped out of the quiet safety of infancy and into the vast, unpredictable world of expression. The word was more than a sound. It was a key, unlocking new dimensions of connection, new possibilities of understanding, and a new chapter in the story of their family. The room, once ordinary and quiet, now shimmered with significance. Each corner a witness to the miracle that had just unfolded. Time seemed suspended. Each repetition of the word, each fluttering movement of the baby, felt monumental, charged with meaning and emotion. The parents leaned closer, breaths shallow, tears flowing freely, hearts full beyond capacity. They had witnessed the impossible, felt the extraordinary weight of a milestone that transcended simple speech, and realized that the first word was not merely a linguistic achievement, it was a profound emotional bridge, uniting hearts, minds, and souls in a shared moment of wonder. The moment expanded, stretching time into a continuum of awe, relief, and uncontainable joy. The baby's word reverberated in the room, echoing against walls lined with pictures, soft toys, and the quiet artifacts of early parenthood. Each repetition carried a new layer of meaning, a tiny pulse of connection that linked the infant's world to the consciousness of the adults who had waited, feared, hoped, and loved so fiercely. The parents could hardly contain themselves. Tears streamed freely, unchecked, as the weight of what had occurred settled fully upon them. The room was alive with the resonance of pure emotion. The mother leaned forward, lips trembling as she whispered the word back to the baby, as if by repeating it she could somehow anchor the magic in reality. The father's hands rested lightly on the crib rail, shaking slightly. The adrenaline of anticipation replaced by the warmth of overwhelming relief. Every breath they took seemed magnified, every glance exchanged packed with unspoken understanding. This was more than a milestone. It was a miracle of connection, a testament to the resilience of life and the extraordinary capacity of a small human to astonish. The baby's coos and gestures became more expressive, more confident, almost celebratory. Tiny hands waved, fingers curling in delight, eyes sparkling with the understanding that she had bridged a gap she had never known existed. The parents laughed softly, a sound mingled with tears, disbelief, and overwhelming pride. The father reached for the mother's hand, gripping it tightly, their hearts beating in synchrony, sharing the unspoken truth that this single word, uttered for the first time, had transformed their lives irrevocably. It was impossible to remain detached. Every instinct, every emotion, every memory of sleepless nights, worries, and tender lullabies converged in a torrent of release. The baby's voice, small yet powerful, had altered the rhythm of their lives, infusing the household with a new sense of wonder, a renewed understanding of the potential within this tiny being. Laughter and tears intertwined, forming a sacred tapestry of shared experience, each thread shining with gratitude and amazement. The father leaned closer, whispering softly, "You did it. You really did it." The mother pressed a hand to her chest, overwhelmed by the intensity of the moment, as if her heart might burst from the realization that they had truly witnessed something unparalleled. The baby responded with a delighted coo, repeating the word again, this time with unmistakable intent, a proclamation that her voice, however small, mattered and would continue to shape the lives around her. In that instant, everything else fell away: the mundane routines, the anxieties of daily life, the unending cycle of care and responsibility. What remained was pure, distilled emotion, connection, recognition, and the profound impact of a single word spoken by a tiny, incredible human being. The parents were changed. They understood, deeply and completely, that the first word was not merely a milestone, but a declaration of presence, awareness, and the beginning of a lifelong dialogue. Time resumed its pace, but the memory of the word, of the intensity of that morning, would linger forever. Every glance at the baby, every shared smile between the parents, carried the echo of that first utterance, a reminder that life's most extraordinary moments often arrive quietly, unexpectedly, and with breathtaking clarity. They had witnessed a beginning, a doorway into endless possibilities, and it had left them humbled, grateful, and in awe. And for anyone watching, anyone waiting, anyone wondering whether small moments matter, this is proof that they do. Life's miracles are often subtle, manifesting in the smallest voices, the tiniest gestures, and the quietest words. Celebrate them, cherish them, and hold them close, because they carry the power to change everything, to transform ordinary days into memories that will last a lifetime. The baby's first word was more than sound. It was a spark of life, a testament to the wonder of existence, and an invitation to marvel at the limitless potential within the smallest among us. The parents' eyes still glistening, hearts still racing, knew one undeniable truth: nothing would ever be quite the same again, and every moment henceforth would be touched by the magic of that unforgettable morning.